Hold on tight for a tale of magic, mystery, and marvelous leaves. In The Three Snake Leaves, discover how a brave hero faces a grim vow and learns that even death can be overcome. But can love survive a cold heart?
Once upon a time, a kind but poor man could no longer provide for his only son. The brave young man with short, neatly combed brown hair and warm blue eyes then told his father, "Dear father, our troubles are great, and I feel I am a burden to you." He added, "I wish to go out into the world and find my own way to earn a living." So his elderly father, with a long gray beard and gentle brown eyes, wearing plain patched clothes, gave him a heartfelt blessing and, with much sadness, said goodbye, watching his son leave for an unknown adventure. The youth is of average height and muscular build, while his father is slightly taller but stooped with age. At this time, a mighty king was engaged in a fierce war, and the young man with his short, neatly combed brown hair and warm blue eyes joined the king's army. He bravely went forth to battle, facing immense danger as shot rained down and his comrades fell all around him. When their leader was tragically killed, many soldiers were about to flee in fear. But the courageous youth, wearing his simple tunic, stepped forward, his voice clear and strong, and cried out, "We will not let our fatherland be ruined." Inspired by his bravery, the others rallied behind him, and he led them onward to a great victory against the enemy. When the king, a regal man with a short, neatly trimmed gray beard and sharp, observant brown eyes, heard that this young man alone was responsible for their triumph, he showered him with great treasures and made him the most important person in the kingdom, raising him above all others. The king had a daughter, a beautiful young queen with long, flowing golden hair and bright green eyes, but she had a very unusual custom. She had promised to marry no man who wouldn't agree to be buried alive with her if she were to die first. "If a man truly loves me," she would say, "what purpose will life serve him afterward?" She also vowed to do the same for him if he died first. This strange promise had scared away all her previous suitors, but the youth, captivated by her beauty, cared for nothing else, and gallantly asked the king for her hand in marriage. The king, a regal man in crimson robes, asked, "Do you understand the promise you must make?" The youth, with short brown hair and blue eyes, replied, "I must be buried with her if I live longer, but my love is so deep that I fear no such danger." Impressed by his devotion, the king, slightly taller and grander than the youth, happily agreed, and their wedding was celebrated with immense splendor and joy. For a while, the young king, with short brown hair and blue eyes, and his beautiful young queen with long golden hair and green eyes, lived in blissful happiness. However, a terrible illness soon struck the young queen, and despite every physician's efforts, she could not be saved. As she lay lifeless, the young king, wearing his fine velvet coat, was gripped by dread, remembering the solemn vow he had made to be buried alive with her. There was no escape. The king, slightly taller than the sentries, had already placed strong sentries at all the castle gates to ensure his promise was kept. On the day of her burial, the young king, average height and muscular, was led into the royal vault with her coffin, and the heavy door was shut and securely bolted, leaving him with 4 candles, 4 loaves of bread, and 4 bottles of wine, facing a slow and certain death. As the young king sat there, overwhelmed by pain and sorrow, eating only a tiny piece of bread and a sip of wine each day, he watched death draw closer. Suddenly, he saw a slender green snake with glittering black eyes creep out from a dark corner of the vaulted chamber. It began to slither towards his beloved queen's coffin, and fearing it meant to harm her, the young king bravely drew his sword, declaring, "As long as I live, you shall not touch her." With a swift motion, he cut the snake into 3 pieces, defending his cherished queen even in death. After a little while, a second snake, slightly larger and brown with intelligent black eyes, slithered conspicuously out of the same dark hole. When it saw the first snake lying dead and in pieces, it quickly retreated, but then, to the young king's utter astonishment, it returned with 3 vibrant green leaves tucked carefully in its mouth. The second snake, about 2 feet long, meticulously laid the 3 pieces of the first snake back together and placed one of the green leaves on each wound. Instantly, the severed parts joined, the green snake moved, and with a flick, both snakes hastened away together, leaving the wondrous leaves behind. A powerful hope stirred in the heart of the unhappy young king, who was of average height and muscular build, wondering if these same magical leaves could bring life back to a human being, just as they had revived the snake. Filled with desperate hope, the young king, with short brown hair and blue eyes, carefully picked up the miraculous leaves. He gently placed 1 leaf on his dead wife's mouth, and the other 2 over her eyes. Almost immediately, a wondrous warmth spread through her, and blood stirred in her veins, rising to color her pale face anew. Then, she drew a deep breath, her beautiful green eyes fluttered open, and she murmured, "Ah, God, where am I?" The overjoyed young king, of average height and muscular build, embraced her, answering, "You are with me, my dearest wife," and recounted the extraordinary tale of how he had brought her back to life. He gave her some wine and bread, and when she had regained her strength, he helped her up. Together they went to the heavy vault door, knocked loudly and called out, their voices full of renewed hope. A tall sentries guarding outside heard them and alerted the king. The king, a regal man with a short gray beard and sharp brown eyes, hurried down himself and, with a joyful gasp, opened the heavy vault door. To his immense delight, he found both his daughter, the young queen, and her husband, the young king, strong and well, healthy and alive. He rejoiced with them, exclaiming that all sorrow was finally over and their family was whole again. However, the young king, wise beyond his years, carefully took the 3 magical snake leaves. He entrusted them to his quick-witted and humble faithful servant, with short dark brown hair and earnest brown eyes, saying, "Guard these carefully for me, my friend, and always keep them with you. Who knows when they might be needed again to help us in trouble?" The faithful servant, slightly shorter than the young king, dutifully accepted his charge, as the king, taller and grander, watched with a smile. A troubling change had come over the young queen after her return to life. It seemed all love for her husband had vanished from her heart. Some time later, the young king, with short brown hair and blue eyes, decided to sail across the sea to visit his old father. Aboard the ship, his wife, with long golden hair and green eyes, inexplicably forgot the profound love and loyalty he had shown her, which had saved her from death itself. Instead, she developed a wicked affection for the ship's large and menacing skipper, a man with a thick, tangled brown beard and shrewd dark eyes. One day, while the young king lay peacefully asleep, his wife summoned the skipper. She grabbed her sleeping husband by the head, and the burly skipper, wearing dark seafaring clothes, took him by the feet. Together they cruelly threw the brave young king, who was of average height and muscular build, into the vast, dark sea. After their shameful deed, she said to the skipper, "Now, let us sail back home, and we will tell everyone that he died while on our journey. I will praise you so highly to my father that he will let you marry me and make you the heir to his crown." But the faithful servant, with short, dark brown hair and earnest brown eyes, who had wisely kept the 3 magical snake leaves and watched everything unseen, quickly unfastened a small boat from the ship. He quietly slipped into it, leaving the treacherous queen and the skipper to their wicked journey, and rowed with all his might after his master. He courageously fished the young king's lifeless body from the cold sea, and with the aid of the 3 vibrant green snake leaves that he carried, he reverently laid them on the young king's eyes and mouth. Fortunately, the brave young king of average height and muscular build was brought back to life. With renewed strength, both the young king with short brown hair and blue eyes, and his loyal servant, slightly shorter and slighter, rowed day and night, their small boat flying swiftly across the water. They miraculously reached the old king's kingdom before the larger, slower ship. The old king. A regal man with a gray beard and sharp brown eyes was utterly astonished when he saw his son-in-law, the young king, arrive alone with only his faithful servant. He asked what strange turn of events had brought them there, and upon learning of his daughter's terrible wickedness, initially refused to believe such a cruel story. "I cannot believe she has behaved so ill," he declared, "but the truth will soon be revealed." He then wisely instructed the young king, of average height and muscular build, and his loyal servant, slightly shorter and thinner, to hide in a secret chamber, away from everyone's sight. Soon afterward, the large ship sailed into port, and the godless young queen, with long golden hair and green eyes, appeared before her father, with a feigned troubled expression. "Why do you return alone?" the king, wearing his crimson robes, asked. "Where is your husband?" The young queen, with long golden hair and green eyes, feigned grief, replying, "Ah, dear father, I return in great sorrow. During our voyage, my husband suddenly became ill and died. If the good skipper, a burly man with a thick beard, had not helped me, I know not what would have become of me. He witnessed his death and can tell you all." But the king, a regal man with a short gray beard, stood tall and declared, "I will bring the dead back to life." With those words, he opened the secret chamber and bade the young king, with short brown hair and blue eyes, and his faithful servant to step out. When the young queen saw her husband, who was of average height and muscular build, alive and well, she was utterly thunderstruck, falling to her knees and begging for mercy. But the king, wearing his golden crown and royal robes, pronounced his judgment, his voice strong and clear. "There is no mercy for such betrayal. He was ready to die with you and brought you back to life, but you cruelly murdered him in his sleep. You shall now receive the just reward that you deserve." Then, as justice demanded, the young queen and her wicked accomplice, the skipper, were placed in a ship that had been deliberately pierced with many holes. Sent out to sea, they soon sank beneath the unforgiving waves, never to be seen again, meeting the fate they deserved for their cruel betrayal. This tale reminds us about the importance of true loyalty, of pure and unwavering love, and the profound value of faithfulness. It shows that kindness often finds its reward, even in the face of great peril, and that dishonesty and treachery eventually lead to their own unhappy consequences. Remember, true love is about trust and devotion, and those who are truly loyal create strong, lasting bonds that can overcome any challenge, even beyond life itself. Always be honest and loyal, even when it's difficult, for these qualities shine brightest and lead to a happy and just life.
Ever dreamed of being the hero? Now you get to be the star. Your adventure starts at TalesMio. Visit talesmio.com